What happens when wokies try to challenge Matt Walsh in a debate? They are knocked out, of course. Watch as these wokies get verbally destroyed by Matt's hard facts. Hi there, it's a fine day to virtually dive into the battle between supposed truth-bearing woke idealists and Matt Walsh, in which, by the way, wokies get absolutely annihilated. So first of all, when we say wokies, we mean the firm believers of the leftist empowerment movement that is ultimately destroying our generation. Or as Matt would say,
it's a cult or a secular religion which teaches that society is systemically oppressive towards certain supposedly marginalized groups. The cult believes that our institutions were built expressly with the purpose of oppressing these groups, and the only way to combat the oppression is to tear down the institutions and restructure them according to the doctrines of the cult. Nothing can exist for its own sake. No institution can have any purpose above or beyond the enforcement of those doctrines. The ultimate goal, according to the cult, is equity, and equity simply means that the imagined oppression of their favored groups has been counteracted by policies that artificially elevate those same groups. And of course, in the woke religion, the Satan figure is the heterosexual white male, and each member of this group inherits the collective guilt of the oppressor.
So let's see how these wokies swallow their tongues after facing Matt. First up is this wokie that seems to have his homework done to prove that gender care and reformation actually had a positive mental impact on the people who went through it.
Why in your movies and your discussions do you selectively ignore and misrepresent the recent burgeoning medical and behavioral literature that demonstrates that gender-affirming care and similar medical interventions demonstrate consistent improvements to mental health, suicidality, and general well-being?
Which study are those?
There are probably like 30 studies by this point, all produced in the last 10 years or so. Anybody can look them up on...
Okay, well just, here's the problem. It proved that double mastectomies for minor girls improves their well-being. And this was a study, and it was proven, peer-reviewed. Then you read how they actually conducted this study, and you find out that they interviewed a very small selection of girls in one region of the country, all from the same socioeconomic background, and they did their follow-up, I think it was 3 months later, and based on a follow-up a few months later, they've determined that, oh yeah, it improves well-being.
Did you catch that? This is a classic case of cherry-picking data. They claim they've read research, but they conveniently selected a group for the experiment that satisfied their predetermined conclusion and cut off the study before any long-term effects were observed. One could argue, why not wait for the subjects to reach adulthood to conclude their study? Now let's move to this young individual who proudly identifies as a trans woman, but can't even tell why he transitioned.
How can you assert that nobody would ever see me as a woman when my material experience tells me you're wrong?
You're saying that you discovered that you're a woman. I'm asking you how you did. That's a very fair question.
Okay.
How do you know that you're a woman?
That's fine. All right. So first of all, listening to transgender people, and it was like, okay, this is a one-off, one person describing these things. Things like looking at yourself in the mirror and not recognizing yourself. Hearing compliments like, you are such an example, like a positive masculine role model. And just hearing that and being like, it feels like they're talking about somebody else.
Why does that make you a woman?
Because
as opposed to just a man who doesn't get along with some other men, or a man who's depressed, or a man who doesn't feel at home totally in his body, which, by the way, is a pretty universal human experience. Everybody goes through it at one time or another. So in what way does that make you a woman, though?
And here's the kicker. When Matt asked why he considered himself a woman, this is his answer.
I know because they tell me.
It's astonishing how he confidently confronted Matt for not considering him a woman when his own transition was based on other people's testimonies, not his own. Now, this next clip might be the main reason the leftist community is, well, on the left side. When Matt was debated by two trans activists who were biologically male, they couldn't even define the gender they were rallying for.
You stood up here and said trans women are women.
Yes.
Tell me what you mean. What is a woman?
Womanhood is something that, just as Ethan explained, I cannot define because I am not myself.
You used the word, so what did you mean when you said trans women are women if you don't know what it means?
Right? So here's the thing. So I do not define what a woman is because I do not identify as a woman. Womanhood is something that is an umbrella term. It includes people
that describes what?
People who identify as a woman.
Identify as what?
As a woman.
What is that?
was to each their own. Each woman, each man, each person is going to have a different relation with their own gender identity and define it differently.
That doesn't,
and so
I'm not
trans
asking for
women are women too.
Okay.
And you want to hold on.
Trans
You
women
want
are
to
women.
reduce.
What, you
listen,
won't
listen.
even tell me
You
what
want
the
to
word
reduce,
means, though. So
you
that's
want to
the
reduce
problem.
women. You want to reduce men down to maybe just their genetics, our genitals, our chromosomes, right? That's what you're saying.
What you want to do is
that's what
you want to do is appropriate women. You want to appropriate womanhood.
Listen to this healthcare professional that spews the same nonsense as the uneducated activists.
Through my training in healthcare, there are several different categories for how we define sex. People bring up chromosomes. People also bring up hormone levels. People bring up all sorts of other categories. Lots of people don't fit neatly into a gender binary, even people we don't consider to be intersex. It's a complicated spectrum.
It's not complicated, but you also didn't define. So what is a woman? What is a female? What do these words mean?
It's complicated, and I know you're not going to like that answer, but that's because there are no simple answers in human biology.
Let me ask you a question.
You guys,
Can I ask you one last
hang
question?
on. Just let me finish. You guys like to bring up high school level biology classes a lot. I get that a lot, but people who go on to more complicated biology classes will talk about sex as a spectrum.
It's not. It's not.
Well, biological researchers would disagree with you.
Well, then they're full of
Honestly, someone needs to drag them back to 5th grade so that they could relearn their biology. On second thought, our whole human population should attend a biology class, because even the doctors are out of order here. Listen to this doctor, who claims to be a board-certified surgeon, but believes that infants can have their own beliefs.
At what age can a child first begin to transition into another gender or identify themselves as a gender different from how they were born?
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's research and data that show that babies and infants understand differences in gender. Some children figure out their gender really early, and the reason why we say, oh, that's interesting or important is because they're figuring out their gender identity is not necessarily congruent with their sex assigned at birth.
When the doctor sees the penis and says, this is a male, has the sex of male, that's an arbitrary distinction.
Telling that family, based on that little penis, that your child is absolutely 100% male identified, no matter what else occurs in their life, that's not correct.
If that's what a doctor really believes and is projecting their ideology on impressionable children who don't even have their brain developed yet, it's downright grooming. In this next clip, you will see exactly why these doctors are the way they are. If these teachers are teaching in universities, America is on its way to destruction. Take a listen.
Why is it important for educators to teach about gender identity, gender presentation, and pronouns? Why do you think that's important?
Because there is a difference. There is biological sex, and a lot of times people are conflating sex and gender. So there's biological sex, and then there's gender, and that's a social construct in the sense that just because you're born biologically a female doesn't mean you automatically want to vacuum, for instance, which is usually a feminine activity.
They are conflating gender and sex because on one hand they say, well, you got your biological sex, but then your gender is whatever social construct. But then they turn around and say that trans women are women. So a man who identifies with the gender, the social construct of womanhood, actually is a woman. So if you can laugh all you want, but this is a logical problem. You are conflating sex and gender just by saying that. So that's the problem.
At this point, there isn't much anyone can do other than just using some common sense. Folks, these wokies have infiltrated everything from our education system to healthcare. When they can't define what a woman is, it's high time to reevaluate our preferences and literally work on spreading common sense. Before we go, like and subscribe if your feelings don't get hurt by simple biological facts.